Well, let's see. Are we going? Yeah, now we are going live. Hey, Sue, happy Friday or Saturday for you. Yeah. And welcome to another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for speakers with Sue Mathieson. And it's always exciting. I'm always in a good mood when we get to play online as we're doing once a week. And of course, this is the fourth tips book in the Get a Clue in 52 series. We did the original, then we did the Entrepreneur Edition, then we did Get a Clue in 52 for coaches last year, and now you've joined me on this year's project for speakers. How are you? What's happening?
I'm well, thank you. We're into the Easter weekend, and which is great. Nice to have a few extra days to shift the focus, I guess, a little bit, and spend some time with family and friends, which is always lovely. And the same for me, always good to be here and join you online. So looking forward to today's session.
Yeah, when I think of Easter, I always think about one of my favorite religious jokes of all time, which is ask me what I'm giving up for Lent.
What are you giving up for Lent?
Judaism, of course. It'll be the first thing to go. That's why I love Easter. I love when Easter comes. I can go back to being Jewish again. It's great. Anyway, has he risen yet? What's going on? All right. Anyway, always jovial on a Friday. And let's go ahead and let everybody know what we're doing here. In these tips books, they're always organized by 5 categories. And so our categories for this book started with section 1, playing the integrity game. And we had 10 tips that we went through in playing the integrity game. But now we're in section 2, which is bring out your brand. So today is tip number 3. And I love this tip. It's like my jovial creativity and also my kind of math envy a little bit that I've got, because we've got an equation form is how we're going to communicate it. But after we've got tip number 13 and then 7 more tips in this section, we'll move on to section 3, which is being fearless. And the primary 8 tips out of the 10 for section 3 are the actual actionable steps towards preparing a speech, preparing your specific talk. All 8 of those steps with a couple of other tips in there. And then one of those tips, the fifth step to being fearless, is such an important tip that we've actually broken it down into 9 tips, if you will. Broke the step down into 10 tips. So that's all section 4, elements, forms, and functions. And then we're going to have a lot of fun ending the year going over these 12 tips in practice building. So you can speak, you can talk, you have some content, you've given some talks, you've given some speeches. Now you want to build a practice out around it? If so, there's 12 accountabilities that we need to talk about in supporting you in your speaker's journey. If it involves practice building, dare I say business building, you know how careful I am about that, Sue. So having said that, as a point of review, when we talk about the section that we're in right now, bring out your brand, it started 2 weeks ago. Tip number 11 is don't be a spectator. Branding is an active process. You have to participate in your branding. If you do nothing, then that is what the marketplace can expect from you. Nothing, or whatever right? You want to control the narrative, control the conversation, get out in front of it. It's not a passive deal, is to deal with branding. And then we talked about the difference between brand and branding. Beside the obvious last week, that one's a noun and the other is a verb, it's really important for subtle, nuanced reasons to really make sure you command the difference between a brand, which is our promise to the marketplace, and then branding, which is getting those promises out to the marketplace. One is content, the other is channeling, right? Etc. So we talked about that last week. And then drum roll, please. Are you ready? We're going to make it available, right? Drum roll, please. Tip number 13, and it goes a little something like this. B equals MP divided by P's times CA's minus J plus S. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a mouthful, but we get to explain all of this now to our audience. Are you ready to rock and roll, Sue?
I am.
Okay, so we're going to pick it up at the top of page 66, which comes off of tip 12. We're in tip number 13 now. Now we're going to read word for word from the book. Here we go. As I elaborated on the importance of her brand and how to develop and communicate it, Sue asked me an important question, one that I've noticed is common among the speakers I've coached globally. In fact, it is so important that I just had to make it a tip in this section. Read on and you'll see why.
I am eager now to develop my brand as a speaker. However, being really clear on my promise still seems like it will be hard to do on my own. I know you, Jeff, went around the world coaching entrepreneurs to speak on big stages. Did that involve helping them develop their brand promise?
Yes, Sue, it is mind-boggling how many of my assignments had absolutely no idea what they were going to speak about, yet they still invested $25,000 or more to speak on stage for 10 minutes and get 1 to 3 days with a coach to prepare. I digress. Let me take you through the process I developed to help high net worth individuals get ready for big stages. I have a formula that helps bring out your brand, and it goes like this. B equals MP divided by P's times CA's minus J plus S. And we've got some graphics here in the book to iconify what it is that we're talking about. But back to the word for word, let's start with MPs, marketplace or marketplaces. Take some time to consider all the various market segments that you could speak to as a result of your life experiences and your professional or business experiences. This is what it looked like when I walked through that process with Sue.
Okay, if I start with life experiences, the market segments include parents, youth and young adults, adults with aging parents, and single women. Then if I consider my professional and business experiences, that includes health and education executives, entrepreneurs, small business owners, speakers, mentors, and coaches.
That's great, Sue. Now, for each of those market segments, start asking what are their needs, their preferences, their pain points. As you develop a brand promise for each of those segments, it should address their specific problems and aspirations, creating an emotional connection.
It would be remiss of me to assume I knew the needs, preferences, and pain points of those market segments. Some of the things I would consider doing to expand my awareness include a targeted survey to collect data on preferences and pain points, bringing together a small group of people to discuss and share their opinions on a specific issue or topic, learning from the mistakes of other speakers, understanding the pain points of their audiences, tracking conversations on social media that fit my particular market segments, understanding the demographics, in brackets, age, gender, education, and other factors, and then psychographics, which include lifestyle, values, interests, and behaviours of each market segment. Living in a culturally diverse city, understanding the cultural nuances that may impact preferences and pain points would also be relevant. Is there anything else I should be taking into consideration that addresses more of what I bring to the table with regard to those segments?
Yeah, continuing word for word. I'm impressed with Sue's ideas, and they'll be a great start to helping her know her audience better. Is there more she can do or other things she should take into consideration? Most definitely. The next step is to ask yourself, what makes you a credible person to be speaking to that audience? Pick one from each of your life experience and professional experience categories and share your thoughts.
From life experiences, I would choose adults with aging parents. And what makes me credible is that my dad was in care for 8 years with Alzheimer's. I know what it's like to support the caregiver, which was my mum, in that situation, as well as being involved in caring for my dad. She has also had cancer, but I'm incredibly grateful that she is still with us and is now well into her 80s. From my professional experience, I would choose health executives. My career in health spans more than 30 years, and at all points during that time that I was in the health sector, I worked alongside senior executives from middle management to the chief executive, doing the work of researching the needs, pain points and preferences of my market segments and matching those to my areas of lived and professional experience would provide an opportunity for me to leverage emotional connection with my audiences. I'm beginning to see from this how I could craft brand promises.
That's excellent, Sue. I think we're off to a great start in working with the front end of the formula, B equals MP divided by Ps. But it's just a start. There's more to know before you define and create your brand. So let's read on. Now, that's the end here of tip number 13. What I'm realizing as we read this, and I know that we were doing when we were setting out, like, hey, we want to, break down each aspect of this formula. And let me put the formula back up and make it visible. We wanted to break down each aspect of this formula, into spread it out across the tips. So next week, we're going to break down promises. So the P's part of this formula or this mock equation, we're going to break down P like for promises. But it dawns on me right now that we should at least elaborate. I should at least explain what these letters mean and what they represent. Because if a reader's got the book, the reader will just keep reading on and it comes right away. But our audience that is tuning in for our tip reading, they have to wait till next week, right? So here we go. So the B equals brand. So brand equals, and here's the formula. The MP stands for marketplace, right? The totality of people that could buy our products or services, that could hire us as a speaker or have us come in and facilitate or train or whatever the case may be. The totality of the marketplace. And then it gets divided by Ps. Ps represents promises. And again, next week we're going to elaborate, but what's our promise to the marketplace? If I promise that I'm going to reduce your cost per hire, increase engagement, and minimize turnover, now that breaks my marketplace into a market segment called HR decision maker, right? HR executives, right? Or somebody, a staffing officers who I'm making that promise to. But if I say I can help you get past the fear of public speaking, now that breaks down the marketplace into like scientists and analyticals and accountants and lawyers that they're really good at the details, but they need to bring out their brands, right? So every promise I can make to the marketplace will divide that market into my segments. That's so helpful, as we talked about in our tip. When you start to break down the segments, now we could start to be the animal and imagine what they say to themselves. Imagine what they feel. Imagine what they're concerned about. Imagine what their self-talk is. And then all of a sudden we're getting closer to creating promises that speak to that listening. But to continue with the formula, when we know all of the promises that we can make to a marketplace, which gives us segments in the marketplace, now we're amplified, multiplied. The mathematical sign of multiplication, the X, right? The idea is we amplify. We'll shout our branding promises from the rooftops if we have CAs. And so CAs we'll probably talk about 2 weeks from now, right? And CAs are competitive advantages out there in the world. You've probably heard this as unique selling proposition or unique value proposition. So as speakers, what is my unique selling proposition? What is my unique value proposition? What do I do as a speaker better than every speaker that does it also? Or what do I do as a speaker that no other speaker does? Right? So we're going to elaborate on that in a couple of weeks. But if I know what my competitive advantages are, that's going to give me confidence to amplify my promises to the marketplace. So the brand is the marketplace divided by our promises, multiplied by our competitive advantages. Now, Sue, when I've been around the world, working with people, getting them ready for the big stage, as we talked about in the tip reading, I would have to pull our brands out of them or bring out their brands, right? Yeah. And so in the process of, the part of that exercise is, all right, make a list of market segments or make a list of promises. Let's brainstorm. Let's throw everything on the wall that makes sense on the whiteboard. What do you do better than everybody else that also does it? What do you do that nobody else does? What else? What else do you do? What else do you do? What else do you do? Well, somebody might do that. Hey, this isn't legal. This is marketing. It's okay if one other person on the planet does it, but is it a competitive advantage? Is it a reason that somebody would hire you instead of somebody else? Let's get all of that out there. And so sometimes in the process of like pulling all of this stuff out, we fall victim to cursive knowledge, which is where we're so familiar with something we forgot what it's like not to know. Which then, guess what? These things come out as J, jargon. So we want to subtract the jargon, right? And then plus S, slogan. So the whole idea is if I brainstorm my marketplace, divided by my promises into segments, amplified by my competitive advantages, I'm going to fail if I'm spitting out tons of jargon. So my favorite example that I love to give is like when it comes to the mindset work that I do as a coach. I don't tell people that I listen carefully to your language choices, which give me access to your limiting beliefs, which I then replace with empowering alternatives and then condition to the point of transformation. I don't say that. I get rid of all of that jargon. And what I say instead is I'll do a checkup from the neck up and get you out of your own way. And so that's a slogan. That's sticky. That's memorable, right? Hey, like nothing is insurmountable when I'm holding you accountable. That's a slogan. You follow? And I even like to say, I don't even like to say holding. Yeah. I like to say, what's my competitive advantage? I know me as a speaker, people are going to feel my authenticity, my vulnerability, my humor, my love. Somebody could sit in my audience and actually imagine hugging me, right? I always say things like, there's too many people out there going for the jugular. I go for the hugular. That's a slogan, right? It's a brand promise. You will feel hugged. You will feel embraced. You will feel held. You will feel supportive. So I don't want to hold anybody accountable. I want to hug you accountable. And that's a slogan, right? So that's what I wanted to make sure that we lay down in this tip. At a high level, the brand is our marketplace divided into segments by our promises, but then amplified by our competitive advantages, as long as we replace the jargon with some sloganeering that makes us memorable and sticky. And I have so much fun with this. I've had so much success around the world. It doesn't matter what country you're in, as long as you're English speaking, right? Cultural differences, time differences, norms, it all works. I've always been successful helping people come up with their brands, their brand messaging, their hooks, their slogans, their tags. At one point I owned 300 URLs from all of the brainstorming and wordsmithing that I've done around these ideas that come about. I've trimmed down quite a bit. Excuse me, my name is Jeff Klubeck and I'm a recovering URL-aholic. It's a guilty pleasure to like go onto GoDaddy and buy up a bunch of names that I sit on for a year, and then I go, oh my God, I've had that for a year and haven't done anything with it. I think I'll let it not renew. But anyway, we've set context. Let's hear from you on any of this, Sue. Thank you for giving me the space to break that down. We're going to go further. We're going to go deeper on each of these elements of this equation in the coming weeks. But for now, we wanted to set it up that, hey, the next couple of weeks of Bring Out Your Brand and Get a Clue in 52 for speakers, we're going to be elaborating on this formula so you can bring out your brand.
And agree that is from an audience perspective now, while we're on live, that does help a lot to be able to give that context as to what the formula is. Before we continue, I think you created a banner with the link. Is it?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Should we just
we're offering we're offering a free report.
Oh, you've got
it's very easy, and I can put it in the comments too. But tinyurl.com/TIG for the integrity game, and then BOYB for bring out your brand. Very simple. tinyurl.com/TIG BOYB. And the other thing too is it's going to be a free report. I'm not going to screen share on that, but just to create some visual around this, I was prepared to show folks. Give me 1 second. It's in here somewhere. Yeah, just to create a visual. Tell me when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So you see this is, an integrity game. This is the workshop version. Integrity game workshop, bring out your brand. This is a little bit about me and all the success I've had training learners. But here's the formula, right? So here's the icon. The brand equals the marketplace divided by promises times competitive advantages minus jargon plus slogan. So you can imagine in a workshop, people can work this out and brainstorm and get ideas out of their head onto paper. And if we treat all of these icons as if they're questions and then do the work of brainstorming answers, can you imagine if these lines for notes are filled up with actual terms from whatever your subject matter expertise is. And we did that, right? Imagine all these terms, and then I could see all of that based on my gifts and what I'm bringing to the table, and then I could help sloganeer and wordsmith, right? From what you shared with us today in your professional market segments, it was really easy. You're the CEO saver. You save them from all the crap rolling uphill, downhill, sideways, and diagonal. You save them from themselves. You save them from the people trying to get their job. You save them from the board members. You're the CEO saver. It landed. It was wonderful. It's memorable. It's short. It's compact. But there's all of this jargon that we wanted to work through and understand what the real promise is. But wasn't that, I just love that brand, CEO saver.
Yes.
Anyway, but so this is a one sheet, and then your brand. And so, just, individual pages. Imagine this is a workbook. So if you want us to come into your organization and lead a Bring Out Your Brand workshop for individual branding, team branding, organizational branding, reimagine the brand, it's very simple. It's not that complex, but I love the way this looks. So hats off to Stella, who did such a great job designing the way we want our materials to look visually. And she did a great job on the interior design of the book as well. And just wanted to make sure I created that visual for what we're talking about. Your brand is the marketplace divided by promises times competitive advantages minus jargon plus slogan. So just from what we're saying today, hopefully people can treat what we're talking about, these icons, as questions and endeavor to start answering them. And then maybe you're going to hit the ground running if you want to get additional help or support or whatever it is from us. If you want us to come into your organization and lead this workshop, a lunch and learn, we'll do it. If you want to get 2 complimentary coaching sessions with an Integrity Game certified coach, myself or Sue or one of the coaches we've trained, right on. We're here to help you bring out your brand. We want you to be fearless and consistent and excited about communicating to the marketplace what pain you can get them out of, what pleasure you can get them closer to, and why people should work with you instead of anybody else that they could be working with. We don't want the jargon. We want the slogan. We want to be sticky and memorable and lasting. And that's what we've got. So all of those materials are part of our funnel. And you click this link, tinyurl.com/TIGBOYB, and you'll get into the funnel. You give us your email address. We'll give you some goodies, right? That's the way it works. What else, Sue?
That's fantastic. What a great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about comments or questions or any more dialoguing around today's tip, which is the introduction of this little formula that I've been successfully using around the world to help people get ready for big stages. And now, as a matter of fact, in my Provisors group, I was having a conversation this morning with Juan, who's the leader of Downtown 5 of Provisors. And he says, Jeff, I think we should do a member spotlight and let our members deliver 10 minutes worth of content or talk about their businesses in more depth than what we normally do in our agenda. And I want you to go first. You seem to have. So we agreed that I'm going to deliver a 10-minute talk to my Provisors group next month on Bring Out Your Brand. And then, of course, it's great because then the following months when they all want to speak and get that 10-minute spotlight, I'll be able to work with them to help them bring out their brands and get them ready for the talk. So it's just wonderful to make these resources available to professionals in every aspect of my marketplace that I'm touching. So I'm very involved right now in the whole Bring Out Your Brand thing.
Yes. Yeah. And what stands out for me as we talk more about the formula that you've got here, but also just referencing what you're talking about in terms of the opportunity you've got there with the Provisors group.
Yeah.
It highlights to me that it's so easy to just get up and speak, and you run the risk of wasting your opportunity because you get caught up in fluff. Whereas if you do the work, if you work through each of these elements of this formula, you can condense and be so much more efficient in the way you present yourself. So you show up credible, you've got clarity, way more powerful because you can slice through essentially any other unnecessary stuff that might be floating around, and you can be really on target. And that's what I love about what we've started talking about here.
Yeah, you could be more memorable. You could be more attention gaining. You could speak into listening. You can, and I got to tell you, I mean, like I practice humility most of the time, right? But I can't shy away from the truth of it. I am powerful when I introduce myself. I'm memorable when I introduce myself. I'm engaging. One of the things I've joined Provisors this year. We're not even 3 months into it, and just so people know, Provisors is a group all around the country, right? There's all kinds of chapters and states, and you can get into it. But idea is professionals that have 10 or more years of experience in their profession and in what they do now join Provisors to network with each other. And it's not just for, leads and introductions and so forth, but now I've got a whole huge team of deliverables, right? Any of my clients that need something, I've got a whole network of vetted professionals that I meet with regularly in order to make those introductions so I can have more service to provide for my clients. But of course, the monthly meetings, everybody gets to introduce themselves for 30 seconds or whatever it is. So what's your elevator pitch? How do you introduce yourself? What's your commercial, your elevator pitch, or what have you? And some of them are really good, and they encourage you to be memorable and have a hook and be creative and take chances. And some of them are forgettable. I mean, no offense to anybody, but some of them, they get out, hello, I'm a so-and-so and so-and-so, and sit back down. You don't remember anything the person said because there was nothing there.
Right.
And like you said, that you get fluff or what, right? But with this, sharpening the focus I have on what ingredients I'm going to put in, right? What is my brand promise? Well, it's very easy. The integrity game wants to make accountability non-threatening. That's my promise, right?
Yes.
And so every time I stand up and introduce myself at one of the meetings, it's not only do I get to go to my group's meeting, which is once a month, but I can guest in all other meetings. So I can go to Carmel Valley and Del Mar, and I can go to UTC. And so you could be a guest at other people's meetings, and same thing, you get up and introduce yourself. And so many people in just the last 3 months have come up to me, Jeff, wow, I really like the way you introduced yourself. Wow, that was, hey, I want to meet with you. How come? Well, because of the way you introduced yourself. I've gotten so many compliments on just how I introduced myself. And Juan, the leader of our group, he's like, Jeff, I've seen you now a couple times. And when it's your turn to talk about yourself, it's always fresh. And you've never said the same thing more than once. And it's memorable and it's engaging. And our members need that. Jeff, would you give a talk on how you do? Yeah, I'm happy to. Right. And so yes. It's to your point, right? It's an anecdote. It is to your point that we don't want to, it's noisy out there. It's competitive out there. How do we differentiate? How do we communicate? If we only have the length of a time for an elevator ride, what do we want to make sure we're communicating? And moreover, can I understand the situation that I'm in? Right?
Yes.
What is my promise? What is my promise to those people? So I might make a different brand promise if I'm in one group that I might make to another group. Or now I can think about what are my products and services and what can my products and services promise? And now, right? So I can talk about coaching. I can talk about training. I can talk about speaking because all of them have their brand promises, right?
Yes.
And it's something that I have a lot of fun with. Maybe I'd taken it for granted until all of these recent experiences in the last 3 months of being being complimented so much on the way I handle myself when I'm introducing myself. And the other thing too, Sue, is that when we're networking, these become questions that we can ask others, right? What's your promise to the marketplace? What are your competitive advantages? Why do people hire you instead of others? Right? And people go, oh, S word. That's a really good question. And so it's fantastic. So it's not just bringing out our brand as speakers, but helping us understand other people. Like, and I'm going to ask everybody that I meet in Provisors. So that way, if I know what their competitive advantages are, if I know what their promises are to the marketplace, now I can make promises that integrate with their promises, right? So know your audience, right? You don't want to be stuck just saying one thing. There's so many people that they introduce themselves and I am so-and-so and I help people with this so that they made this. And it's like they've got some of the ingredients in there, but if you say the same thing every month, I'm going to tune you out, right? But if you can make it fun and creative because you've got all kinds, that's why I go back to this right here. Let me go back to it. When I go back to something like this on the screen share, now I want to fill up this whole page with ideas. I want to fill up this whole page with notes on the marketplaces, different market segments. I want 5, 6, 7, 8 different promises, right? I want as many competitive advantages as possible. And to me, the analogy is, and I'll stop sharing now, but I just want people to get this visual. Like, imagine having a lot of ingredients. You know what the analogy I really love, Sue, is grocery store, right? The grocery store, right? First of all, play along with me. We've got a couple minutes here, right? If you came to my house and I said to you, I will cook any meal that you want. Come on over to my house and I'll cook you any meal.
Yes.
What meal would you want? Anything.
Beef stroganoff.
Okay. So I'm going to need some noodle pasta. I'm going to need the beef. I'm going to need some seasoning. I'm going to need stuff to make the gravy and some chicken stock and some whatever, right? Do you want that?
Yes.
Like, I'm starting to imagine all of the ingredients I need to make that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, wouldn't it be funny? This is the funny part of this. Are you ready, Sue? It is Friday for me, right? We're still jovial. Can you imagine if I said, all right, Sue, I'll be right back. I got to go get the ingredients. And now you're standing there in my home by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. How long before you're looking in the medicine cabinet in the drawers to entertain yourself? Never mind. Right. But like, wouldn't it suck? It would suck. It would suck if I had to leave and go get those ingredients, because you don't know how long it's going to take me to get to the store, find the ingredients, come back, and then I start cooking. What a bummer that is. My point is, my point is, I want the ingredients on hand. I want them in stock. I want all the ingredients in the cupboard already. Right?
Yes.
Now, if I do have to go out to the grocery store and get the ingredients for beef stroganoff or whatever somebody wants. Last time I asked somebody, like, anyway, I get all kinds of meals when I ask people this. It makes me hungry. But my point is, what if I went to the grocery store now? What if I went to the grocery store and everything that I could possibly buy is just piled up in the middle of the floor? What would I do?
Yeah.
Would I dive in and start swimming around in the pile looking for the beef bouillon or the gravy or the seasoning or what pasta? Where is it? No. I might go to a different grocery store altogether if it's right. What I'm getting at is, thank God the grocery store has aisles and sections that are labeled, right?
Yeah.
And so now imagine I've got my cart and I want to go into, are you ready? The promises aisle. And on the left side of this aisle, I've got the promises that get people out of pain. And on the right side of this aisle, I've got the promises that get people into pleasure. Put them all in the cart. And now go to the next aisle, please. Oh, now I'm in my competitive advantages aisle. On one side of the aisle are all the things that I do better than everybody else that also does it. And on the other side of the aisle are all the things I do that nobody else does. Now I'm in the benefits aisle, right? And so here's all the stuff that people get when they work with me. And here's all the ways that I make people feel when they work with me. And now you follow? And now when I go shopping and I load up with all these ingredients. Now you want beef stroganoff? Boom, there it is. You want, pasta al dente? Boom, there it is. You want grilled salmon with a side of mashed potatoes and some broccolini? Here you go. I don't. So the idea is our marketplace is going to have different appetites. They're going to have different dietary restrictions. Yes. They're going to have different preferences. Some people are, right? I want all my ingredients on hand, and I want to have such command of all of my ingredients that I can be the master chef in any given moment when it's time for me to market myself. So if I'm online and it's time for me to market myself, I can do it. If I'm on campus at San Diego State and it's time to market myself, I can do it. If I'm a supporting coach at somebody else's event, I'm ready to create the white labeled Coach Jeffrey brand. And that's a different brand promise to a different market when I'm doing independent contract work versus my own self-generated work. Does this make sense? And so people don't know what they see. They just know that they see an ability for me to communicate who I am and what I do that they've never seen before. But what I want everybody to know is that I can teach you. I've gone around the world helping people with this. And it starts with this formula is part of it. Right. And so it's very simple. It's just a couple of letters with a couple of arithmetic, functions, right? But if we do the work and really endeavor to brainstorm as many market segments as we can based on all of the promises that we know we can make and keep, and all of the advantages as reason, right? Now we can start to be, ooh, that's jargon. Let's replace that with a slogan. All right, which of these ingredients are going to go together? And every marketing message is like a meal that we could create on the spot if we've got all of our ingredients. And so now I never waste an opportunity to market myself because I've got ingredients for everything. You call my cell phone right now. If anybody calls my cell phone right now, as a matter of fact, if you're out there, try it. 619-405-3356. It'll go to voicemail. And what's it going to say? Hey, this is Jeff Klubeck, and I really want to know how I can help you. Leave me a great message. That's it. I'm promising that not only can I help you, but I want to. I really want to know how I can help you.
Yeah.
So it's marketing myself at all times. So now I can read the context and make good decisions about how to put the messaging together. I love it. It's so much fun. But what else in terms of comments or questions from you or feedback on where we're at this stage of our tip reading journey together? Just to remind our audience out there, we are reading from Get a Klu in 52 for Speakers with Sue Mathieson. So what do you got, Sue?
Yes. What's coming through to me is, bringing a whole lot of parts that we've talked about to date, is one of your brand promises is that you are authentic. They get it. People will see your joviality, your integrity. The examples that you've given so far, why that is so consistent for you is because you have frameworks that you work within. So there was a framework for the integrity game. We've got this formula here that we're working through now. You've done the work over a period of time, to the point where you are so comfortable with knowing the answers to all of those parts of the framework that it gives you that freedom to be you in the context of what you were just talking about. You can adjust to whoever your audience is, and you can say something, coming back to your comment earlier about the leader of the group saying, oh, but Jeff, every time you introduce yourself, you never say the same thing again.
Right.
It gives you that freedom to, in the moment, you bring you as you are that day in that space, but you have the consistency because you've got those frameworks that sit behind the work that you've done. You know how things connect. That is standing out to me as a sort of a broader observation of all the things that we've talked about to date.
Yeah.
And that's what allows you to do that, which is so incredible, so powerful.
Yeah. I'll tell you, you've said a couple of things there that I can't deny. Number one, I've done the work. Number two, I create frameworks, right? I organize thoughts, right? Number three, that comes to mind is freedom within the framework. Sometimes people think framework as restrictive. I don't. I see frameworks as playgrounds, right? You want a framework. I know when I'm in it. I know when I'm out of it. And inside of it, there's some predetermined stuff that's always there that you know what the basketball court is, you know what the handball court is, you know what the sandbox is, you know what the jungle gym is. Predetermined stuff that's there, that's immovable, that's always going to be part of a playground. But then there's all this wide open space where you can run around and you could create your own games and hide and seek and capture the flag, or you could, like, there's all kinds of, like, some of the coolest moments on the playground is finding somebody sitting beneath a tree and they're playing with rocks from the gravel part of the blacktop and they've made up their own thing. And like, it's playtime, and you go to an area and you've got freedom. You're safe, you're protected, you're structured. But you're within that, you're free. And so that's how I try to do all of my work. Right. And we're going to elaborate on this later on in the book. when we get to the 8 steps for fearless and the 8 steps for conversational fearless public speaking, it's what it's all about. Is when I'm giving a speech, a talk, I do not want to be bound by any one single word. I want to be able to read the room and choose the best word for what my purpose is in that moment. So we're going to talk about this when we get into the next section for sure, but let me preview a little bit right now. The point that I always, or the example that I always give is, if when I'm writing my speech or, outlining it or organizing my thoughts and preparing, I might write down 6. But when I'm on my feet,
the numbers,
yeah, when I'm on my feet, I might want to say 5 plus 1, 10 minus 4, half a dozen, 60 divided by 10, 3 times 2. Because I might have an analytical CEO over here, and I might have a startup founder techie over there. I might have a lawyer over here. I might have an entrepreneur over here. I might have a young professional that I need a bunch of different ways to get my point across.
Yes.
I don't want to be bound.
Yes. But
by one particular word.
They're all getting to that one point.
Back to another thing that you said. I don't waste opportunity with fluff. I don't go down the rabbit hole. I don't. I mean, I go down plenty of rabbit holes. I take that back. I go plenty down. But there's always a framework. There's always a comeback to come back to when I tangent or when I editorialize or when I storytell or when I, string the pearls of all the gazillion ideas going through my head at once, right? But your comments are on point. I love what you said, freedom in the framework. I love you say being efficient. I love that. Thank you for complimenting the work that I've done to be in the situation that I am. I'm gifted with some wordsmithery, if you will. But I've done the work to be able to apply those gifts, to integrate those gifts. And I've got a ton of success sharing those gifts with others around the world. And we haven't made too much mention of this, but the first couple pages of our book, right? All of these are testimonials from people around the world who I've helped bring out their brands and get them ready for stages. So it's wonderful to know, first of all, because it's so fun too, but also to be acknowledged and to be recognized. And so I just want to say thank you for that. I mean, it's one of the reasons that I'm sure that you work with me, that joviality, that authenticity, the frameworks that create the freedom. I have to accept all of that as the truth of the matter. Humble as I'd prefer to be, I'm good at this stuff, and I want to help you, 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 and I want to help everybody bring out their brand. I want the world to make sure they're aware of your promises and why you instead of somebody else. So we're just getting started with tip number 13 here, and I'm ready to do last call, but I'm going to kick it back over to you. Remember, we started with, in this section, don't be a spectator. We want to be proactive. Then we broke down the difference between brand and branding, the message and how we get the message out. And now we want to go deeper and put ourselves in the positions to get all of our ingredients so that we can cook up as many messages as possible to get our messaging out into the marketplace. So we've made this point before, Sue. The first 20 tips of this book are for speakers and non-speakers alike. Right.
Exactly.
And so we really hope the value is out there for those of you out there that are tuning in. So having said all of that, here we are. Last call. Comments, questions, jokes, riddles, haikus, limericks, or expressions of gratitude. Smiley face.
I absolutely love these conversations that we have. I love even the fact that we can do the word for word tip reading to start with, but again, each week is going to be different because it depends where we're at in that moment. And I love the unpredictability almost of some of what we talk about. It's fun, it's enlightening. I always get something new, refreshing out of the conversations we have, and I truly hope that people that listen in, whether they be live, the recordings, just find some of that energy and have so many takeaways for themselves to go away and apply in their own situation. So absolutely love the time that we have each week doing this.
For that, I want to remind free BOYB report is what we want this to say.
Yep.
Save. And then show. Free bring out your brand report. If everybody out there goes to tinyurl.com/TIGBOYB, it stands for The Integrity Game, bring out your brand, right? Then we'll give you some goodies in exchange for your email address. And we really appreciate that. We want to hear from you. And by the way, that process keeps you eligible for 2 complimentary coaching sessions, not 1, not more than 2, and not 0, but 2 complimentary coaching sessions with an Integrity Game certified coach to play your integrity game or to bring out your brand. These are, the first section that we covered, 10 tips covering the integrity game. Now we're in the middle of 10 tips to bring out your brand. So if you want to get some coaching, 2 complimentary, we're talking about 2.5 hours of free coaching that we're offering anybody out there that really wants to work this and roll up their sleeves and do the work that we're talking about, so you can arrive at a place of freedom within the framework and be able to make any marketing meal on the spot based on knowing your audience, knowing your marketplace, and command of your ingredients. So having said all of that, I want to wrap things up. Anything else, Sue, from you on last call?
Not today. Just loving the conversation and really looking forward to continuing that deep dive into the formula that we've started addressing.
We're going to get into promises. We're going to really go, I say Kluba diving, right? We're going to go Kluba diving on promises next week. But I wanted to, make sure we establish at a high level, what are we talking about when we're talking about this little formula or this equation?
Yeah.
That looks interesting.
Definitely very helpful.
Yeah, and I can actually edit this now too, because I figured out how to make a division sign. Finally, I had to ask Siri, how do you do that? And now, instead of doing the slash, now I can do this, the actual division sign. It looks better. Division, multiplication, subtraction, and addition, right? So this is like, that was the other funny part about this, right? I'm such a communication guy. I have math envy. So here I am using mathematical functions to communicate my approach to helping people bring out their brands. So this has been a fantastic session. And I see some eyeballs out there. Thanks to those of you that are tuning in to get some value out of Get a Klu in 52 for speakers with Sue Mathieson. I am Jeff Klubeck, founder, author of The Integrity Game and all kinds of other stuff that I do. And we hope that you take us up on our offer to get our free branding guide or to get 2 complimentary coaching sessions with an Integrity Game certified coach. And we're going to be back every week in 2024, reading 1 tip per week and taking us all through it. So having said all of that, I don't have anything else for this week. Sue, how about you? Nope. Frozen?
Nothing more from me.
All right. Well, wonderful. Thanks again for another jovial week. And I can't wait.
No.
Well, you and I are going to talk later today. I'm looking forward to that as well. But then, of course, we'll see you and everybody out there in LinkedIn land or wherever we're streaming this live stream. We'll see everybody next week for tip number 14, which is all about promises. All right, Sue, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Fabulous. Thank you. You too. All right. See you soon.
Okay. All right.